We're here in Aston Martin's new flagship brand center, Kew, New York, showing you the all-new DB12. The DB12 is an 80% new car for Aston Martin, where most of that is tucked in places you can't see. But visually, most of the changes are structurally in the front end of the car, and this is the first Aston Martin to wear the brand new Aston Martin badge. Some of the immediately recognizable changes to the front end of the DB12 include the larger front grille, reminiscent of that on the DBX707 and the V12 Vantage, all new headlights with new daytime running lights, and much stricter pleats on the bonnet. In conjunction with the larger grille, you'll notice a significantly larger area for cooling, which is needed for the 671 horsepower twin-turbo V8 engine. Moving along to the side, there's a brand new side strake with the Aston Martin script really nicely laid into the material. Along the side of the car, the rocker is pretty similar to that found on the DBS, and the rear is similar to what we have on the DB11, albeit much wider. You'll notice the DB12 comes with 3 new wheel options, all of which are 21 inches in size. More specifically, they're running Michelin's latest Pilot Sport tire, the 5S, with the AML branding on the side. Just like the Bridgestone was developed in conjunction for the DB11, this Michelin Pilot Sport 5S was developed specifically for the DB12. If you take an even closer look at the wheel, you'll notice this DB12 is optioned with the carbon ceramic brakes, the first Grand Tour from Aston Martin to offer carbon ceramics, really noting where this car is going to stand in the segment, in a league of its own. One of the most notable changes to the front end of the DB12 is they've removed the reverse clamshell bonnet for a more traditional bonnet. Just like DB11, the DB12 features a front bin-mounted twin-turbo V8 stuck as far back in the chassis as possible for a fairly even weight distribution. Most noticeably, the DB12 went on a diet, shedding a little bit over 220 pounds from the first edition of DB11, coming in around 3,800 pounds. As I mentioned before, the rear is fairly similar in design to the DB11, albeit with a wider track, similar to that of the outgoing DBS. Now, the purpose of that is for much more stability in the rear, helping put down the torque and overall pairing with the Bilstein revised suspension for that super tourer ride. A new feature in the DB12 is the self-presenting door handles, making it very easy to get into the all-new interior. The most prominent changes in DB12 are noticeably found in the interior of the car, with a brand new HMI system developed by Aston Martin, shedding the old Mercedes infotainment. The DB12 features 2 new touchscreens. Both are 10¼ inches in size, one for your main infotainment and the second for the driver's gauge cluster. At the risk of being too modern, Aston Martin intelligently integrated a full set of tactile buttons. So you have the duality function of a touchscreen and actual functions for usable driver features where you don't need to go into submenus to directly do an input. The trim split options have also changed, with 6 new trim and light designs, a brand new steering wheel offered in standard or heated, and this is the first infotainment system in a segment to have screen mirroring capabilities where you can run Apple CarPlay not only in your center screen, but also up in your forefront navigation. This screen is the highest resolution in this class, and it's also driven by a chip that is 2 times as powerful as it will ever need to be. Therefore, every swipe is just as efficient and responsive as you would have on an iPhone or an iPad. The final design updates on the interior of DB12 include the optional carbon bucket seats found in the V12 Vantage and the original DBS Zagato, along with brand new door cards, again in a variety of 6 different trims. There's some burbles. So we managed to ditch the city, and now we're back home in the back roads of Greenwich, Connecticut, and here we are in the DB12, finally driving the car after a lot of anticipation. I'll start with reiterating some of the specs in the car, which we already know, but I'll say them again. It's a twin-turbo 4-liter V8 sourced from AMG, modified by Aston Martin. Output of 671 horsepower, around 590 foot-pound of torque. Made it the same ZF transmission. It's an 8-speed transmission used in DB11, DBX 550, Vantage as we know it. Those numbers don't tell the whole story. You know, aside from the obvious, yes, this interior is about 90% new. It looks fantastic. It works really well. It's something that the brand has needed for a long time, and it's here. Put that aside, this car drives night and day from what it replaced, the DB11. And a lot of that comes down to the minor revisions that you can't see. It's not the styling, it's not the infotainment, it's not the redesign, it's the suspension, the gearbox tuning, and the power output. I can't emphasize enough how much better this car feels. It maintains that Grand Touring level of comfort, but it is far more precise. My favorite part really is the quicker steering ratio. You feel it right away. Immediately the car feels agile, it wants to dance, it feels nimble. Side-to-side movement is responded to with effortless ease. Something you didn't quite get in the DB11, which wasn't a fault of that car, but this just takes it to a new level. That power is immense, and it puts it down so well. It really has to do with a combination of the Bilstein dampers in this car that are roughly 300% more adaptable than the previous suspension that it replaced. You feel that. You feel the compliance, you feel the precision, but the back end with the wider track can really put the power down. Also complementing that is the tires. This is the first production car to wear the new Michelin Pilot Sport 5S. And it's a darn good tire. Nothing wrong with the Bridgestones, but I'll take these any day. And just like that, we're doing 80 miles an hour. This thing is quick. It is not really a Grand Tour. Would I call it a Super Tour? Sure, it's really good, whatever it is. It is really quick, but it is comfortable. I can take this car on a trip, a long trip, no problem. I can tear up these back roads like I'm doing, no problem. I can go out to dinner, no problem. I mean, this really kind of checks all the boxes. I don't really know what else you can want out of a sports car, but this does it. Well, that was a fun drive. Let's head back to the city where I'll take you through the rest of the car and finish up our walk around. I hope you enjoyed the brief overview today of the all-new Aston Martin DB12, and thanks again for visiting us today in Aston Martin's new flagship brand center here at Q, New York.